This is BYU Sports Nation, brought to you by the BYU Store, simulcast on BYU TV and BYU Radio. Now, from Studio B, here's Spencer Linton and Jarom Jordan.
BYU Sports Nation is live, your day-to-day play-by-play in Studio B, presented by the BYU Store, official outfitter of BYU fans everywhere. It is Tuesday, May 17th, wherever and however you're connected. Great to have you with us. I am Spencer Linton, teamed up with the man who blames Micah Simon single-handedly for the Tennessee cancellation on the 2023 schedule. His name is Jarom Jordan.
If BYU had lost that game, would they have returned it? No, it was awesome. That 2019 win is one of the iconic wins in BYU history. It was fantastic. BYU TV Sports tweeted yesterday, Micah Simon, this is your fault. Referring to Tennessee buying out the game, to which Micah replied, me not scoring here keeps me up at night, LOL.
Fesi Sitake said in response to that, if you get 8 hours of sleep, you score on that touchdown run or potential touchdown run.
So Michael wasn't? No, what a play. I mean, what a play. And coming up, we're going to have the top 5 plays from that game because we got to.
That's what we do. It's
May 17th content. I feel like the TikTok voice could be applied to what we're doing today. May 17th content. We got a good show. We got a good show today for May 17th. Typically, our May 17th are one of our weaker shows.
Jarom,
one of our stronger shows.
In fact, the show lineup today is the only 10 I see.
Nice.
Oh,
I volunteer you for the
no
thing.
Tennessee. What now for BYU football?
Plenty of
Which
games.
Open team on September 2nd of 2023 would you replace the Volunteers with? We will discuss each and every one of the teams that we believe has an open date, at least according to FB schedules. Plus, former NFL and BYU linebacker David Nixon joins us to discuss what he thinks about getting $2 million from Tennessee and how BYU can take advantage of that in scheduling. But now, before we get to today's BYU Sports Nation headlines.
Tennessee will buy out the 2023 season opener at BYU in football. The Cougars get $2 million from the Volunteers. Cougars now have Southern Utah and at Arkansas as the 2 non-conference games. We haven't been told officially yet, or even unofficially, if the Big 12 is playing 8 or 9 conference games. Feels like 9, meaning the Cougars have 1 game, the opener, to fill to complete the schedule. It would seem. Much more coming up on what's trending.
As long as there are no raccoons and possums involved in any of these games, I'm good. More on that to come later. BYU baseball hosts Utah. The Cougars have won 9 straight games. The Utes have lost 9 straight games.
Well.
Hashtag 10 is coming. The series this season is tied at 1 game apiece. Game 3 tonight, 8 Eastern in Provo, live on BYU TV.
And BYU Radio. Let's go. Softball gets to enjoy the final West Coast Conference Weekly Awards today. I say that tongue-in-cheek. With Taylor Williams as co-player of the week, with an unnamed school player who got an auto bid for the NCAA. And Autumn Moffitt-Korth was named the pitcher of the week with 10 Ks in 15 innings and 1 earned run.
Death to the RPI. BYU
I said that 3 years ago.
BYU men's golf currently tied for 4th at the NCAA Stockton Regional. Great position because the top 5 teams will advance to the next round of the NCAA championships and have a shot at the Natty. Carson Lundell and David Timmons lead the Cougars individually at 3 under par right now. Well done, Carson and David.
Okay. And Michael Recker pitches 2 innings of shutout ball in relief for the Cubs against the Pirates.
All rise and shout. It's time for What's Trending.
You're talking about it, and so are we. It's What's Trending on BYU Sports Nation.
No Tennessee, no problems for BYU in 2023. You get $2 million, and you don't have to play 11 Power 5 teams. It's a mere 10 now, we think, Jarom.
We want 12, though.
Well, do we? Unless BYU opts to go out and seek another Power 5 opponent to fill the vacancy left by Tennessee. But before we get to those potential teams that could fill in, Jarom, what is your reaction now about 24 hours later to Tennessee dropping off the 2023 schedule and not giving BYU the return trip in Provo?
Yeah, disappointing. Really looking forward to that game. 2019 was a classic. That was a fantastic game. Was hoping for that. Was excited about that. Big pill to swallow in terms of, all right, we're going to have 2, quality non-conference games, both from the SEC, plus probably 9 Big 12. Okay, 11 Power 5. It's Tennessee, and that's tough, and I get it. I'm hoping Florida plays the game with Utah and then buys out the one in Salt Lake just so I feel a little bit better.
That's not going to happen.
And then BYU and Utah can play in week 1 of 2023. That would be the dream scenario in this situation. But I get it. SEC teams don't come west a ton. When you look at BYU at home against SEC teams, there've only been one school that's ever come, and it's been twice, and it was Mississippi State in 2000 and 2016. So Arkansas is coming this year with just the second team and third home game ever in Provo against an SEC team. So we still have that, but yeah, disappointed yet. I kind of get it. Jay Drew said at the 2019 game that he talked to of the Deseret News, someone in the press box from Tennessee who said, yeah, there's no way they're going to return that game. I was like, what? So now you tell us, Jay? Now you tell us?
Apparently, it's a non-starter for Josh Heupel, the head coach of Tennessee.
Oh, well, he remembers the Boca Raton ball at
Exactly.
UCF.
He remembers what happened when he was coaching UCF against BYU. So non-starter for him.
If you don't want the smoke, you don't want it.
He didn't want to go to Provo.
You want Virginia? That's an easy game. Come on.
And played in Nashville?
Yeah.
Because I would believe that Tennessee looks at BYU and says, okay, well, we don't want to make the trip, but how about a neutral venue, and maybe we'll give you a little bit more money, but if that neutral venue is Nashville?
It's semi-away.
Come on.
As Ken Palm would say.
Nashville?
Yeah.
That's essentially another home game for Tennessee. Well, Virginia takes the bait. They've got that. Now BYU's $2 million richer. So I'm with you. Initial reaction was disappointment in the moment because that orange and white is so iconic, and it's so rare that an SEC team comes to Provo. As you said, Mississippi State is the only team to ever play in LaVell Edwards Stadium.
Only team.
We researched that according to our friends at Sharp Sports. They keep us up to date on that stuff.
Just an acquaintance,
right?
but yeah.
Mississippi State, to date, is still the only team to play. So Arkansas is going to change that. We hope,
well,
right?
It's coming up in a couple months.
We hope
that game's happening.
It's happening.
That game's happening, yes.
Well, and it comes on the heels of BYU losing the Missouri game. So here we were thinking, man, the end of Independence is going to be sweet because here comes Missouri, here comes Tennessee, here comes Arkansas. Now it's just Arkansas. So, yeah, a little disappointing.
What year was Missouri going to be? 2020, right?
COVID blew it up.
Yeah.
Yeah, but $2 million makes me feel better. And even more than that, the opportunity for BYU to replace that game with a contest that will not be as challenging and maybe help
a more winnable
the new-look BYU team transition into
yes
Big 12 play.
Competitively, it is in BYU's best interest that it's not Tennessee, but I was ready emotionally for Tennessee in that situation. I think either way we're going to enjoy the first year of the Big 12, whether BYU is successful or not. Because it's like, finally, we're in the club.
Adding 2 SEC teams to that schedule.
Flash the Power 5 ID. We're like, yeah!
Next level epic if you're playing 2 SEC teams on top of a 9-team Big 12 schedule.
The Big 12 schedule will be, hard enough. So in that regard, it's all good.
There's a silver lining.
Yes, there's a silver lining. And as a defense mechanism, we will figure one out.
So we call it a gold lining because it's $2 million.
Well, Two is nice, but BYU would have made way more from that game in ticket sales and revenue from that home game because Tennessee. So that's a nice, side prize, But,
Yeah, you wonder what the cost differential is going to be depending on the opponent that comes in to replace Tennessee for that game. It is going to be a home opener, would think.
That game would have sold out. That game would have sold out.
Maybe it still sells out. Maybe it's 6s, We'll see.
It's hard to get a sellout that isn't Utah these days.
Unless you've won 10 and 11 and you're going into the Big 12 and season ticket holders want Big 12 home season tickets. So you're going to sell out every game the first year. Don't be surprised to see that happen.
I hope so. I'm not confident that's actually the reality.
Don't be surprised to see that happen.
Because prices will go up.
Now, here's my next question.
Who's showing up?
Here's my next question with the Tennessee game going away for BYU. Who's available?
Yeah, let's talk.
And what do you replace Tennessee with?
Let's talk.
Okay, so I did the homework yesterday. I went through every single Division I college football schedule on FB schedules, all 130 teams.
Let's go.
Just to see who was available on September 2nd and who didn't have a certain number of games in the non-con.
Yeah.
Regardless, I did the homework.
Week 1.
11 teams available. Power 5 teams. There are 4. Georgia Tech, Pitt, so a couple of ACC teams, Northwestern, and Alabama. Yes, seriously.
Remember when BYU was going to play Alabama or something, and then they didn't? Remember that? Or there was an opening. And
COVID.
There was COVID
blew that up too.
What?
Alabama is available in week 1. That's not going to happen.
And we want this as a home game, do we not?
Yeah.
Well, it depends. We need to know from the Big 12, is it a 9-game schedule? And is this a 5-home game Big 12 year? If so, it doesn't necessarily need to be one unless you're in the I want 7 home games often crowd.
It's got to be a home game because Tennessee was a home game. So if
it doesn't have to.
Well, you can't wait. You can't wait for the schedule to come out in October.
And you don't. Well, I think BYU knows whether it's 8 or 9 games and hasn't said.
I think they know it's 9 games, but do they know if they have 5 or 4?
Right.
If they only have 4 home games, it has to be a home game.
You're not going to not play 6 home games. So you're right. You make it a home game.
You have to make it a home game.
Therefore, it won't be a Power 5 team. Because I don't think you get a Power 5 team unless you're like, hey, we need you to come out here to open your season next year. And then we'll go back at some point in the first
3 years or 4 years or whatever, whenever the next availability is.
Yes.
But then you're potentially taking Utah out of the mix.
It's probably a group of 5 team with that in mind.
7 group of 5 teams are available.
Okay. Who hit me?
Between August 31st and September 2nd. UNLV, Memphis, Middle Tennessee, Florida International, James Madison, who is making the jump to FBS level.
That's awesome. They're great.
Louisiana and Southern Miss.
Okay, of note, Louisiana, super legit, top 25 last year. Memphis, good program.
Does
the last couple
BYU
years.
want the Sun Belt smoke? Has BYU had enough Sun Belt?
I don't want the best Sun Belt team. They could beat BYU. Like, they could hang, for sure. I love the idea of Memphis. I love the idea of UNLV.
Oh, so much.
James Madison's, like, interesting. They've been an amazing FCS team that's won national championships. Like, they compete with North Dakota State. They have been the ones that have, like, wrecked Weber State seasons multiple times, which is disappointing because we want the Wildcats to win here locally. I don't want Louisiana, honestly. They're, like, too good of a team in that situation where BYU fans would go, oh, that's a win. It's like, no. That team can play, man. That team can play.
The game that makes the most sense is UNLV.
Yeah, just hook it up.
UNLV
will return a game at Allegiant
coming to Provo. BYU will play because that's where they play their home games, at Allegiant Stadium.
And that was such a great experience against Arizona. It really was. It was amazing. BYU's going back this year with Notre Dame. I would love BYU to play in that stadium like every 4 years. Like every 4 years, BYU plays at least once in the league.
Here's the other chip BYU has it's working with. They have $2 million, so they can say to UNLV, "We'll give you $1 million if you come to Provo and play us," or whatever the number is.
Because we're a Big 12 team,
sure,
and we are a big dog, and now we pay for
We will pay you.
We pay for G5 games.
We will pay you to help us on our schedule.
We're in the pay for G5 games spot. We're also in the if we lose the bowl game to a G5, we just didn't care. We weren't motivated.
BYU can pay UNLV to come to this, even if they don't want to return the game. Look, we'll just straight up pay you for a one-off to come to Provo and fill the vacancy left by Tennessee. I think that is the most ideal situation. And if UNLV wants to push their luck, like you said, BYU can say,
nice pun.
Right?
That's good.
All right, we'll return the game to Allegiant Stadium in a season opener in 4 or 5 years. Great. That would fill the game against a G5 in the 3 non-cons as BYU
UNLV
transitions.
is the perfect B game. To Utah, I think Utah has done it smartly, honestly, the ABC thing. The A game has been BYU or a replacement, in this case Florida, this year until Florida buys that game out in Salt Lake. I'm just going to keep speaking that into existence. The winnable G5. So winnable G5 is not Memphis, is not Louisiana, right? I'm not saying BYU won't win. I mean, like,
it's a tough game.
You're going to win the game if you play UNLV.
It's a tougher game.
Yes. I don't want that kind of game for BYU as a Power 5.
There's history between BYU and UNLV too. So.
And then, absolutely. The same league for a while and whatnot. And then FCS. By the way, can I just get on my little soapbox here? My Irish Spring soapbox. I put out some stuff about scheduling last week. There are those of you who don't understand why BYU or any team plays FCS teams. It's a second bye week. It's an opportunity to rest amidst all these tough games.
To build depth.
Yes.
To build depth for younger players.
Reps.
They need actual game repetitions.
Everybody but like USC, it feels like, plays FCS teams. Okay?
Alabama plays an FCS. Everybody in the SEC plays an FCS team.
You don't understand how it works, okay? You play FCS teams. You need that. And BYU needs an FCS team when it starts playing in the Big 12 more than it's ever needed an FCS team.
Because you can count an FCS win towards bowl eligibility.
One of them.
Yes.
By the way, Hawaii in 07 with Colt Brennan, rest in peace, played 2.
But could only count 1.
And still went to the Sugar Bowl. Yep. And then they got blasted. But still, they were a BCS buster. Yeah.
I know some of you are saying, well, why can't BYU play at a neutral site against one of these Power 5s? Oh, let's have BYU play Pitt and play the game at the home of the Steelers, or Northwestern in Las Vegas, or Alabama in Dallas.
Northwestern in Chicago or something.
Does BYU need to do this in year number 1 of the Big 12?
Do you want BYU to potentially not make a bowl game? Because in 2023, because this year's going to go well, and a bunch of these guys are going to bounce, but BYU is going to continue to recruit well, no doubt. It's just I wonder if 23 could be 22 from a talent perspective, right? As we look at it right now, this is a very talented team. I don't want to add more weight to an already PR for BYU in the weight room, a.k.a. 10 Power 5s as it sits.
And it doesn't – a neutral game and a road game are not the answer. Tennessee was a home game. It needs to be a home game.
I don't even care if it's a home game against Power 5. I don't want it.
That's what I'm saying.
I don't want it.
The answer is –
if it was Utah – I feel differently, but that's the exception. That's the only team where I'd be like, yes, I would take Utah. Because in the future, I want Utah as the one non-conference.
So it's not going to happen.
But next year, you have at Arkansas.
It's not going to happen, but let's say Northwestern's like, I'll come to Provo. You don't want it.
And it's Mike Wilbon on the other line? It's Greeny?
See, I'll be okay with Northwestern and Provo.
I'm not threatened by Northwestern.
That's not going to happen.
In the same way.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
It's not going to happen.
To me, Memphis is a tougher game than Northwestern.
Louisiana might be a tougher game than Northwestern.
Might be.
Exactly.
What's Northwestern going to do? Just
UNLV.
Run. Yeah.
UNLV, I believe, is the answer. Memphis would be fun. UNLV is the answer.
Okay, Tom. Get it. I'm sure he's already been on the phone. Yeah.
Our question of the day.
Let us know when it's the Rebels.
Who should BYU schedule to open the 2023 season now that Tennessee is gone from the schedule? Let's hear from you in Voice of the Nation.
This is the Voice of the Nation on BYU Sports Nation.
At Jonathan Hawk on Twitter says, we want Bama. And not Bama Birmingham.
No, we don't.
Since we lost Tennessee, BYU might as well upgrade the game to be against Alabama at Allegiant Stadium. To be the best, you have to play against the best.
BYU's not aiming to be the best. Like, BYU's aiming to win Big 12 title and have 2 losses.
They want to be the best of the Big 12.
In the Big 12. In the country, that's too big of an ask. Like we need a collective that can pay the free agents in the transfer portal.
I understand that it's exciting for fans, like the prospect of playing number 1. This is not the year for it.
You know what I like?
This is not the year for BYU to play Alabama.
I like not being a sucky team. So hopefully BYU can make a bowl game. You know what I mean? In a year where they're going to play 10 Power 5s. That's going to be hard. Let's say BYU goes 6-4 and it was like really good. It was like, okay, now hopefully we won 7 or 8 and we're good.
This is not the year to add Alabama.
No. In fact, it's the worst year of all time.
Not the year to add Alabama. New quarterback, you're in the Power 5 conference for the first year ever.
When is a great year for BYU to play Alabama as a Big 12 member?
In Independence.
I don't know that there is one. We're good. We want to play Utah, winnable G5 FCS, check.
Hashtag BYUSN, Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram if you want to join the conversation.
Coming up, what's worse at a baseball game, a possum in the booth or a raccoon in the stands?
Both
really happened.
Both happened. Plus, former NFL and BYU linebacker, our good friend David Nixon joins us next. Who is he choosing to replace Tennessee on the 2023 schedule? Viva Las Vegas. This is BYU Sports Nation.
This portion of BYU Sports Nation is presented by Bodyguards, protection for a life worth living.
Tim Daly Ford in Spanish Fork sells Ford vehicles including the F-150, the pickup designed for work and play. Tim Daly Ford maintains a large inventory, providing more choices for selecting an F-150 with the power and engineering to carry and tow heavy loads. The F-150's design offers comfort, safety, and a range of options to choose from. Think Ford. Think Tim Daly Ford in Spanish Fork.
Trio Orem Senior Living believes in empowering seniors to live life to the fullest. We help eliminate stress out of daily life when you live at Trio. Less time focusing on housework means you can socialize at one of our many events, with safety in mind, of course. And did we mention our spacious apartments with modern amenities? Learn more about setting up a private tour at trioorum.com.
Do you not know the groom's name?
I missed it on our first date, and it's way too late to ask.
Whenever you experience something funny, the first thing you want to do is like share it with your loved ones. Seeing that comedy like helped us through things, that we want to use that to help other people in a way.
We had one kid whose make-a-wish was to come to Studio C. It made me be like, these goofy sketches mean a lot to people.
BYU Sports Nation is presented by the BYU Store, official outfitter of BYU fans everywhere.
10 is coming.
Let's hope.
BYU baseball, 9-game win streak, Utah 9-game losing streak. Can BYU do what Utah didn't do in the fall in football? 8 Eastern, BYU TV app, BYU radio app as well. Big game tonight. Let's go.
We are live in Studio B with your day-to-day BYU Sports play-by-play. I am Spencer Linton alongside Jarom Jordan. Joining us now, our longtime friend, BYU TV Sports. He's a former NFL and BYU linebacker.
Really?
His name is David Nixon, and he has plenty to say about Tennessee leaving the 2023 schedule, and now BYU replaces the Volunteers with who? David, who's your go-to team, brother, now that Tennessee's not coming to Provo?
I'll just say who it isn't, and that's Bama. You don't want Bama. You don't want any of that smoke. Listen, with BYU and now going to the Big 12 that year, there's no reason you beef up your non-conference schedule. I mean, this isn't like basketball where you have to worry about strength of schedule. As a BYU fan, we're not going to make the playoffs, especially that first year in the Big 12. So you don't need to worry about trying to vie for those top 4 spots and have a strong strength of schedule. So go out there and get in UNLV or a very winnable game, something probably here regionally. And slip it in there and get ready for Big 12. I mean, there's no reason to go out there and try to stretch yourself and get guys injured when you're going to be playing in your first year of what you've been dreaming for over a decade. So I think you find a team that's a very winnable game. Obviously, get them to come here to the LES. There's talks of maybe meeting Northwestern and Vegas. I don't want another Vegas game. I mean, BYU's playing there this year with Notre Dame, but BYU needs a home game, especially with, like I said, the schedule coming up. So I say get a winnable game. Do not take Bama. Do not take anybody that resembles Bama. Not a lot of teams that do. But get ready for the Big 12 gauntlet. That's what you're really eyeing for.
Yeah, we're with you. And finally, everyone's on my fewer P5s train. Because we're going to have plenty in the Big 12. We're going to have 9 plus 1 a year. 10 is great. So you talked about a winnable game. We were talking about some of those options that Spencer researched. I don't want Memphis. I don't want Louisiana, frankly. That's a really good team out of the Sun Belt who's been in the top 25. It'd be fine if it's Southern Miss or James Madison, a newly minted G5 this year who's been FCS awesome. Middle Tennessee, a little history there. We played a 13-14 series there. FIU, fine. UNLV is probably the most intriguing. Who's the most intriguing for you among those potential G5s? Or would you want a Memphis, a Louisiana?
You know, I will say, like Louisiana school, having grown up in Texas and those teams in the South, a lot of those kids are kids that have been passed up on by your Alabamas, Auburns, and a lot of them have chips on their shoulders. So those are the type of kids you don't want to play, especially when you're looking for just kind of a gimme game once again. So I like the UNLV game. Bring back the old Mountain West days we used to play in year in and year out. You know, and I don't know, maybe it's fun to bring FIU or one of those guys across the country, but for me, it's one of those games you don't have to think too hard about. Once again, you got to keep your eye on the prize, and that is getting healthy to Big 12 play and being ready to rock and roll and not slipping up beforehand. Because here's the thing, BYU, you're going to be familiar with UNLV. I mean, I know you have been playing each other in a conference, but you got similar type kids you've recruited, and so it's something that you're familiar with. Whereas in these other schools, they come out here with some crazy offense and something that you're not really prepared for, and next thing you know, you're you're struggling in a game you shouldn't have to struggle in.
Now, David, to me, it has to be a BYU home game because Tennessee was going to be playing in Provo. And BYU, we don't know what's going to happen with the Big 12 schedule. So to me, it absolutely has to be a home game, not a neutral field, certainly not a road game. Are you on board with me that the Cougars have to have a home game?
Totally agree. Totally agree. Once again, because of the year that's going to be happening with BYU, I hope it's a first, right? You're traveling to first time to Lawrence or, down to Texas Tech or whatever, however the schedule comes out. There's going to be a lot of stuff up in the air, a lot of anticipation. And so for me, once again, I really couldn't care less about that preseason, those first 3 games. I think this is something that you're really just focused on your team and getting ready for the Big 12. And so for me, whenever Tennessee bailed, yeah, it's kind of a bummer, frankly. I wasn't too sad because once again, it's an SEC opponent. You don't want to get beat up. I mean, this is our first time to make a big splash in the Big 12 and try to make a run. And it kind of sets the tone for maybe the rest of your time in that conference. And so for me, Arkansas is obviously a huge splash. That's going to be a really tough game. You got Southern Utah, and then once again, the game we're talking about now where you get maybe UNLV. So I think that's probably the most plausible type situation. Get UNLV locally, get them here. I agree. Do not do a neutral field. You want to have them here. And then see how that Big 12 schedule rolls out.
David, I love you, but I got to counter something you said. I think those first couple of games really matter. I think BYU needs to go 2-3 2-1 in those games to ensure a bowl because we don't know how BYU is going to fare in that Big 12 schedule, that gauntlet that we've never really gone through. Don't tell me you don't go back to 06 and 07 and think if we didn't go 1-2 to start those seasons, we wouldn't have been in a BCS game. They certainly matter, but in the big picture, I get it. You got to get ready for Big 12 play, no doubt. But I think BYU needs to win 2 of those 3 to ensure, yes, we're going to a bowl game, even if we go 4-5 in league.
Yeah, and when I say don't care, I think a lot of it depends on if you want to get to the New Year's 6 game.
In year one next year?
I'm just saying it gives you the platform, right? So that's always been BYU's goal. Get into a conference and make it to a New Year's 6 game, right? I mean, that's the top goals that Connoly has outlined. And so if you want to get there, you have the platform now. Whereas in prior in independence, you had to basically run the table. As we saw this last year, you couldn't afford slip-ups. And so for me, it's if you can go have an impressive season in the Big 12, you're going to have that shot at the New Year's 6 game. Prior, that's why I don't think you needed Tennessee to be able to puff your schedule up because you already had that schedule puffed up during the Big 12. I mean, it's already got its strength of schedule there. So that's why, for me, losing the Tennessee game is not a huge deal. Because all of a sudden you fill it with UNLV. I get it. Tennessee's much more fun and much more intriguing than UNLV is. But at the end of the day, all you're doing is focus on that Big 12 play and winning that first time Big 12 championship. And hey, I know it's a lofty goal, but that's got to be your goal year in and year out. You can't settle for anything less. You're not trying to say preseason. Claudia isn't preaching to his team, guys, get ready for 2023 to take third. We can do it. We can reach third place. That's not it. As competitors, you're not eyeing for third or second place. And so, yeah, is it a lofty goal? Yeah, it's a lofty goal, but hey, that's where it's at. You got to eye it to go out there and take the whole thing year one.
Well said.
Third would be amazing in year one. I feel you on those goals, no doubt. And for the team rhetoric, sure, but let's be real. In year one, it's make a bowl game for BYU because of they're going into a place they've never actually gone before, right? If BYU makes a bowl game, I'm like, check. Now we move from here. Because to me, the goal hasn't necessarily been New Year's 6 for BYU football. It's been to get into a Power 5. Now that BYU is getting into one, now we can look around and go, okay, how do we sit here? Also, Oklahoma and Texas are still in the league. So once they leave, there'll be this big reset where we look around and go, okay, now how do we fare in year 3? We've had a couple of years. Oklahoma's gone. They're the best team here. Texas, obviously, is always overrated, but still quality. Then I think we'll go, okay, now how do we fare? So how do you sort of see that navigation the first couple of years in the Big 12? Or is it like you said, no, let's go compete right away, realistically, for a Big 12 title?
Yeah, it's going to be interesting with Oklahoma and Texas obviously still being a part of the conference and how that's all going to shake out. But I think, like I said earlier, I think this year one is how you set the tone. And I think this is a team that's got to come out swinging. I think BYU has a great chance. I mean, you look at last year, the measuring stick for BYU was playing at Baylor. They kept it close in that first half. Second half, they got worn down, and that was in the trenches. It's something BYU's got to improve on. But Baylor goes on to win the Big 12 championship, and they were the marquee school of that conference. And so for me, BYU's, I think they can hang with the Texas Techs, the Houstons of the world. When you bring in Cincinnati, I think all these teams, BYU has a really good shot against them. So I don't know. I don't think it's going to be as tough as maybe you might think it is. I think Oklahoma was losing their coach, and we'll see how they rebuild. Texas, as you mentioned, hasn't been great. So I don't know. I think I'm more optimistic about heading into the Big 12 than maybe most are. That I think BYU has some success, especially coming out this year with Jaron Hall and what they can produce. You continue to get some good recruits in here and build around them. And I don't know. I think BYU can go in there and surprise people that first year in the Big 12, no doubt.
It wouldn't hurt to have Jaron Hall playing quarterback the first year in 2023 in the Big 12, but that's probably not going to happen.
Ben 22 needs to be mediocre.
All right, David. So
we just need to start pitching in for NIL money for Jaron now. That's what we need to do.
Exactly.
We all need to invent some companies and just pay him like $10 million for that first year. And we're good. It's not easy.
David Nixon is on BYU Sports Nation. Enough 2023 talk. Let's discuss the 2022 squad. And is it more about Jaron Hall and the offense for BYU to be successful and win double-digit games again? Or, David, is it about the reemergence of a defense that was certainly banged up with injuries last year and, by the numbers, were not great? And BYU was number 78 in total defense last year, according to Bill Connoly of ESPN. So is 2022's success more about BYU's defense being better than anything else?
I think it is. I think offensively, there's not going to be any worries. I don't think BYU, frankly, misses a beat even when you miss Algier. A draft pick leaves the team. I think this team, offensively, I think they'll pick up right where they left off. For me, the big worry is, frankly, the defense. And I'll be honest, I addressed this right when the season ended. I feel like BYU needed to address the defensive line and linebackers, bring in some transfers and maybe some JUCO guys. Unfortunately, they did not do that in this offseason. Obviously, Kalani and his staff know better than I and are confident with the guys they have in those rooms. But I would love to have seen some more depth come in the front door in that sense. But you look at the lineup, there's a lot of guys who played quality reps last year, played against good opponents, faced some adversity as far as injuries go. Guys had to step up, probably play more than they wanted to or felt like playing, that maybe their bodies weren't ready to play. And so you take all that into consideration. It's one more year underneath their belt. Hopefully the defense can step up. And my focus this year, I think the secondary will be great. It's that BYU front seven. And yes, injuries did BYU pretty bad, especially in the linebacker area, D-line as well. But they've got to find a way to beef up that front seven because, the teams BYU is facing, Arkansas, Oregon, these guys are going to want to run it. They're going to look at the film from last year, what Baylor did, and they're going to try to run it down your throat. And you got to find a way to step up, plug holes, and, come to the football and make tackles. And that's something BYU really struggle with. But other than that, I think this team, I think they're set up for success. And assuming that all the guys come back healthy and ready to play, it's a really exciting squad.
Yeah, hopefully a healthy Keenan Peely and a healthy Peyton Wilgar and a healthy Max Tooley will join Ben Bywhite on those linebackers, can fill some of those gaps on the defensive line. David, great stuff. Always fun to talk with you. Let's do it again soon.
Awesome. We'll do. Take care, guys.
David Nixon on BYU Sports Nation.
We lost to UAB in a bowl game. We are talking about winning the Big 12 in year one. BYU's got to lose a bunch of dudes. I'm want that too. I just don't think in year one that's a reality, right? I think it takes perhaps a couple of years to really get situated in we play 10 Power 5s a year now. We can handle this. I'm excited for that. That's going to be awesome. Year one's a stretch to me.
How much of a transition will it be with BYU on the regular playing, 6 to 7 Power 5s in independence? You don't think it would be as sharp as some of the other programs that are experiencing that?
The transition will be better and easier, but it doesn't mean it's going to be easy, right? Like BYU's not always Utah, difficult. Who went 5-7
it's
through
always
the first
difficult.
3 years. It took Utah 11. Utah's been really good, right? It took him 11 years to win the league. 11. It takes time, okay, to get in that spot where you're actually in that championship game. Third place in year one would be incredible. I'll take top 5 right now. I would take that now in year one because BYU's going to lose a lot of pieces too, okay? Coming up, ESPN's Bill Connoly has BYU football at 8.5 wins this season. Would you take it right now?
And would you rather have a possum or a raccoon loose in Studio B? This is BYU Sports Nation.
Do we know that neither of those are behind the set? Do we know that?
Utah is a special place. Our communities, the people, the history. There is no place quite like Utah. At Siegfried and Jensen, we're honored to say that we are from Utah. We live here, work here, and when someone is injured, we're proud to say we've helped a neighbor when they've needed it most. We know Utah. At Siegfried and Jensen, we're here for you. Call us today.
BYU Food to Go's convenient location at 2191 North Canyon Road in Provo makes bringing popular BYU foods to your next event easy. Everything's ready when you need it at the drive and load pickup. You drive in and they load no matter the weather. And stop in the on-site creamery for great BYU chocolate milk and ice cream. BYU Food to Go, bringing campus to your table. Call for details, 801-422-5001.
My name is Spencer Finnegan. I'm from St. Louis, Missouri. During my sophomore year, I got married to my sweetheart, Mary, and there's tons of unexpected expenses when it comes to marriage. We were looking for scholarships. I found the replenishment grant, and my local alumni chapter gave me a grant to help me focus in on school. I'm so excited to, now that I've graduated, give back to those students that are coming to BYU in the future.
Familiar with the BYU TV app? Yes.
I beg your pardon?
Sure, it's got great original TV shows. But it also gives you access to family films for free.
Wow. Awesome!
So gather around, grab some popcorn, and let us do the rest.
It'll be fun.
Watch some of your favorite films anytime, anywhere. With the free BYU TV app.
I like it.
BYU Sports Nation is brought to you by Maersk, enabling global trade for a growing world.
I love that I bring up, you got to play FCS teams. And our crew shows BYU's FCS highlights. That is listening. St. George, we're going to be there Saturday. Join us at Sandtown Park, noon Eastern, 10 Mountain for a BYU Fan Fest. It's going to be a ton of fun. BYU athletes, coaches, it's going to be awesome. We'll be there on BYU TV and BYU Radio. We are going to attempt to get some early morning golf in potentially. We'll see what happens.
We'll see if sleep takes over.
It won't. It won't.
He is Jarom. I am Spencer.
Maybe during the show.
This is BYU Sports Nation. To interact with the show and get content throughout the day, you know what to do. Follow us on all of the major social media platforms, including Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok. Let's whip it. Cougar Whip represented by Maersk, your integrated container logistics company, enabling global trade for a growing world.
Bender, BYU is not included in Joe Lunardi's May 17th version of Bracketology. Do you care about May 17th Bracketology, even if BYU was in it?
If BYU was in it, I absolutely would care about it.
Because it really matters.
But nobody's expecting BYU to be in it at this point.
St. Mary's is in.
Well, St. Mary's is one of the last 4 teams in.
They're in, though.
And they're bringing back their best player. But they're losing some other pieces. And coming off a season when they were a 5 seed.
Wait, Tommy Kuzi has another year?
Stop it.
No, I'm serious. He does?
No, it's Jordan. Oh, my goodness. What's his last name? Anyway.
I thought Kuzi was.
No, I don't think he's their best player. Tommy Kuzi, he's not their best NBA prospect. That's for dang sure.
Ain't an NBA prospect. He's a church ball prospect.
No, I don't care about it. I don't expect BYU to be in it at any point until they go out and prove it. If they're, BYU starts 9-1, then maybe they get into a bracketology.
Even if BYU's in it, I don't care about it. It's too early. There's too many moving pieces in the NCAA for this to be remotely accurate.
The Big 12 and Old Trapper, a jerky company, agreed to a deal that makes Old Trapper the official jerky of the Big 12. So, Jarom, will jerky suddenly taste better when BYU's in the Big 12?
Have you seen West Virginia? Absolutely. Have you seen Lubbock? I haven't either. But I'm assuming it's going to taste pretty good. Although we are in a mountainous region with a lot of hunting. We have some good jerky. I am assuming, though, that it will be better than the independent jerky.
Jerky,
Liberty and Old Dominion and Notre Dame.
Jerky typically tastes really good. Yeah. I love jerky.
Yeah.
But, in the Big 12, I'm sure it'll have an extra spice, an extra savory
Like the dude
taste.
with the Davy Crockett hat and stuff. I trust that guy making jerky.
Also, I was in Stillwater a little over a week ago.
Yeah?
Walking around T. Boone Pickens Stadium and graduation at Oklahoma State, and I just got I got chills, man. I just thought about BYU running onto the field against Oklahoma State at some point. I was like,
very excited.
It's going to happen.
Very excited.
It's happening.
How much credit does Kyle Collinsworth get for the Mavs Western Conference final run? Because he tweeted, quoting a tweet, "We helped get the high draft pick to select Luka Doncic.
Yep.
We deserve some credit here." Your thoughts?
Hey, you know what? If it's about giving a BYU guy some credit, for sure. We helped get the Mavs Luka Doncic. I mean, yes, he adds the laughing emojis.
Those Mavs teams are so bad.
I'm just glad that Kyle had a shot in the NBA. It was cool to watch him play in the NBA.
It was fun to see him get in the NBA. The real credit goes to the Hawks because they were the idiots that traded Luka for Trey. Trey's a good player, but Luka's another level.
Jeremy, I can't believe we're about to put this on television and talk about it on the radio.
Viewer discretion advised.
Seriously.
On this next thing.
This might make your eyes
bleed. If you have little kids you might want to cover that.
How much money would it take for you to sign off on BYU and Utah swapping colors?
Oh, this is so bad.
It just looks gross.
I don't think the heavens want us to actually put this on television. If you are listening only today, you are blessed because this is an abomination.
It looks so gross.
Ah.
To see the stretch Y.
Okay, the answer, I have an answer.
Enveloped in red with a black outline. It's gross. And I'm sure Utah fans feel the same way.
I might throw up on live television.
Seeing that Ute feather logo with blue, royal blue.
What would it take? $300 million over 10 years. $30 million a year.
What is BYU's brand worth to Nike? That's the real question.
Nike don't care what color. We care what color.
Well, Nike cares what color because
we could change to red and they'd be like, cool.
Won't buy it if they don't like it.
Right?
Man.
Does it have to be crimson?
It's wrong.
What Pantone was that? Would you rather have a possum or a raccoon loose in Studio B? Last night in the press box for the Oakland A's, a possum was in the corner. They need to move stadiums immediately. And Grant Harmon at an Arkansas baseball game picked up a raccoon in the stands. So what would you prefer here?
I would prefer a possum because raccoons are just absolutely wild cards. Like, you've seen the movie Elf, right? Also,
look at this video.
The dude catches the raccoon just grabbing it by its neck.
The woman in the white shirt.
The woman in the white shirt's like, get it out of my face. She okay?
Well, here's the thing. Did that raccoon purchase a ticket legally and rightfully? Then I think this is illegal search and seizure.
It had to be Arkansas. It had to be Arkansas.
It's Rocket Raccoon. Welcome to the frickin' Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yeah, I think possum. Possum's more,
dude,
I guess, domesticated.
Possum's just like, yo, what's up? Raccoon wants to party, like, and I don't want to go to that party.
I love that the dude that caught the raccoon is taking a picture of it as it's like biting his hand. He's like, this is awesome.
Can't wait to play Arkansas this year in football.
Were the two sets of rabies shots that you had to take after awesome too?
Can Grant Harmon show up at the game and we get him in studio? Get him on countdown to kickoff? Coming up, would we take 8.5 wins for football this fall right now? And how does one win a half game exactly?
I don't know. We'll discuss the metrics. And are you willing to gamble that guaranteed 8.5 wins for BYU in hopes of a better season, Jarom?
Am I willing to gamble? Can I tell you off the air?
This is BYU Sports Nation.
to a partnership where customer experience comes first. It's our focus. It's your expectation. We provide support to those that go the extra mile for all of us. Supplying products, training, and service for generations. Learn more at bradyindustries.com.
As we've spent time working with so many groups around the world, we've learned a lot.
I have really learned the importance of gratitude.
African electrical systems.
Well, I've learned that Kieran actually loves concrete.
The power of cooperation.
But above all,
we've learned the world is a family.
And fixing someone else's problems
ends up fixing my own.
BYU Sports Nation is presented by the BYU Store, official outfitter of BYU fans everywhere.
Excellent shot of the Spencer Linton rookie card that Zach Wilson is on his way.
Yep.
For Cougar Sports game highlights, interviews, and archive content, compelling and rich conversations, subscribe to the BYU TV Sports YouTube channel today. Once upon a time, BYU banned YouTube on campus.
Hey,
Luckily, that's not the case now. When we were in school, you could not watch
the YouTube.
The YouTube. Yes, exactly.
No more Boom Goes the Dynamite.
I know. I was like, how am I supposed to share viral videos?
I sent out a poll yesterday asking you to take your pick of available teams. Okay. But rather than because you can't have 11 options in the polls on Twitter.
Thank goodness.
Just generalize it into 4.
Mm-hmm.
And
I voted.
Group of 5 in Provo sounds nice was the winning answer with 45% of the votes.
Good to
Group
see
of 5
all of you
in Provo
are starting to become somewhat rational.
Add any Power 5 team, still 24%. And I want Bama. 17% of you still said I want Bama. No, not next year.
Not ever. We don't need that. Yeah, you're right. It's the Sugar Bowl when we're the Big 12 champ.
And Alabama finishes
they're
third
the
or
SEC
whatever.
third.
Yes, come on.
It's what
the only time I want to see them is in a New Year's Six game.
It was Ole Miss and was it Baylor this year in the Sugar Bowl? That situation. That's the situation. Yes.
Jarom, my friend Bill Connoly, who's been on the show a number of times.
William.
Does great work for ESPN, among other publications. Has some numbers now showing BYU winning an average of 8.5 games this season.
Yep.
This with this SP Plus metric in play. He was rating all of the independent teams. For the record, he has Notre Dame at 8.9 wins this season.
Okay.
BYU at 8.5. Of course, Notre Dame and BYU play each other in Las Vegas.
I've heard that.
Jarom, would you, with an average of 8.5 wins this season, take that right now or take your chances to see if something better happens for BYU in 2022?
Let's rewind back to basketball season. We asked the same question, but about an 8 seed. And
BYU can be way better than an 8 seed.
Let me tell you why that doesn't matter in this situation. Because this BYU football team is really good. Like, really good.
They're deeper than
when
BYU's
I'm
basketball
saying
team,
I
too.
believe BYU will be, 9+, that should mean something. Because I'm not going to look at the high side. I'm going to look at what I think will really happen. And I see a 9+ win season. So do you.
I'm glad you've joined me. Yes.
This is a team. Yes, because, Dave McCann came on here and said, 10 wins last year. That's like the only time that high of a selection in independence would have been actually right. You know what I mean? In a regular season. It was an incredible year. This team is going to win 9+. So I don't take it because I think BYU can go above it. And there are games because you keep adding talented P5s. It's Kingsley Suamatia, Gabe Judy Lally, as we've learned, right? Chris Brooks, Houston Heimuli, among others. Guys that are going to come in and contribute right away. Peyton Wilgar and Keenan Peely are going to be healthy. It's going to be awesome. The secondary is loaded with experience and talent. Very excited about it. Mike Harper is going to be back. Mike Harper's baller. I cannot wait.
And can we trust the BYU coaches to develop the defensive line? Right?
I look forward to that D-line taking a step forward, yes.
Yeah.
The key to all of this as well is Aaron Roderick. Aaron Roderick has changed BYU football in an amazing way because since he started calling the plays, BYU's 26-4 or something. It's just since the middle of 2019. It's just a crazy situation since he called the plays. There were 2 games at the end of that year where he didn't call the plays, and BYU lost those games. Not a coincidence. I believe in this team winning 9+.
I'm with you. 8.5. I get it. I totally understand why Bill Connoly sets the number at 8.5.
Perfect line.
Right? It's the perfect line.
It's the perfect line.
Yeah, I totally understand why he has it there.
Yes.
But I think BYU is going to win 9 games. And here's the thing: if Jaron Hall is healthy the entire season, BYU will win 10. BYU will win 10 games. Mark my words: if Jaron Hall is healthy the entire season, and he starts 12 games, BYU will win 10.
I believe that as well.
BYU will win 10 games.
I believe
Jaron Hall is healthy the whole season.
I believe that out of 13. Because, yes, this schedule has really hard games on it. We don't know if Baylor's going to be as good as the Baylor from last year.
We don't know what Oregon is going to be.
It's week 3 with a new coach. It's just different, right? Notre Dame, obviously a challenging game, the most losable game on the schedule, but it's Notre Dame, and who knows?
What is Arkansas coming back? Arkansas was good last year.
Yes, preseason top 25, that's a tough game. At Stanford, Stanford's not great right now. They are not the Stanford that we've been seeing before. They beat Oregon last year. That was different. Tanner McKee Bowl again, the whole deal. At Boise State, real tough game. At Boise State, tougher game than at Stanford.
What is Boise this year, too? What are the Broncos?
I just don't fumble when you win that game. How about that? Just don't fumble when you win that game.
It's a good plan to win.
I have actually been asked to talk to the team before the game, and I will just say that. Hey, don't fumble. You're good.
The road to 9 or even 10 wins for BYU this season, or even more, Jarom.
Oh, shoot.
Begins in Tampa in how many days?
Countdown to the Bulls.
109. 109 days away.
Hello, Jerry Bohannon.
3.5 months until BYU's football season begins.
Still 3.5 months? 109 feels close. 3.5 months does not.
3.5 months.
Yeah.
But you're okay with that because you want a summer break.
I need a break.
You want a summer break.
I need to not do stuff.
You should work in a lengthy vacation in there.
I was gone last week. I need another one. Coming up. Top 5 Tuesday. The best plays from the 2019 win at Tennessee.
Yeah, you know why we're doing it. Plus, can we rise and shout out to money? Can we do that?
I thought it was the root of all evil.
Well, we're about to find out if it works. This is BYU Sports Nation.
About to get a lot of it in the Big 12.
This portion of BYU Sports Nation is presented by Delta Airlines. Keep climbing.
Hi, Spencer Linton here, letting you know when your company joins the BYU team as a corporate partner, your brand can be featured in sports programming on BYU TV and BYU Radio. In addition to all of the great games, you can be part of the BYU coaches shows, place your message in Countdown to Kickoff, basketball pre- and post-game shows, and each weekday on BYU Sports Nation. We invite your team to join ours and become a corporate sponsor of BYU Athletics. For details, email sponsorship@byu.edu today.
Dexter & Dexter is a full-service law firm offering a wide range of legal services. Since 1995, we have helped more than 20,000 Utahns both to navigate life's challenges and to make the most of life's opportunities. From personal injury to business law, and from adoption to bankruptcy, we are passionate about shouldering your burdens. To learn more about scheduling a no-obligation consultation, visit dexterlaw.com.
I thought I was going to see you at work this morning, 8 a.m.
Waste my summer? Come on, B. Ride with us. No, man, I gotta go take care of that dog. Won't even let me touch him.
I can come over and show you a few tricks.
He screws up one time, just one time. He's going to get put down.
Yo, we got the Air Jordan of dogs here, man.
Paul Brandt is laying his guitar aside and picking up a hammer.
There actually are things that can be done to help people in situations like this.
This is our house for real.
I don't think you can ever dream too much.
As the receivers become the givers, they in turn help themselves. Watch Paul Brandt's Build It Forward on BYU TV or with the free app.
This portion of BYU Sports Nation is presented by Mountain America, the official credit union of BYU Athletics.
BYU Sports Nation, always available on demand via the BYU TV and BYU radio apps.
Or download the podcast. You can Google BYU Sports Nation podcast and then subscribe, rate, and review.
Jarom, It is time for Top 5 Tuesday.
Ah, yeah.
Yes. And it's all about Tennessee. Presented by Delta Airlines. Keep climbing the top 5 plays for BYU's 2019 win against Tennessee. Hello, Volunteers.
Number 5, Zach Daw yeets the cleat. Early in the game, Zach Daw drags down Tennessee quarterback Jarrett Garantano. His cleat comes off, and he throws it to the sideline like it's a possum or a raccoon.
Garantano's like, what the heck, man? And there was no penalty.
There was no penalty. I believe he did it later in the season again, Spencer. Am I wrong on that? I'm trying to remember. That is number 5.
I love the meme that was created of Zach throwing the shoe and then Micah Simon catching it down the other end. Number 4, Jake Oldroyd. Hey, as great as the Micah Miracle was, it's all for naught unless Jake Oldroyd makes that field goal, and he just sneaks it over the left upright.
Pitching wedge. The Tennessee fans right there thought it was off.
This is the angle.
Then you look right here and you're like,
oh, man,
it was in by a solid 16-inch.
Woo! 16 centimeters, maybe? 33 yards, sends it to overtime.
Number 3, Talon Shumway, touchdown catch in the first overtime. Great play. Zach Wilson on the slant. Talon Shumway for the touchdown, put BYU up by 7. Tennessee answered, and then they go to the second and 10.
Beautiful route, beautiful throw. A fun lead for the moment. And then BYU, well, they needed Tyson Williams to notch this game away.
In his backup jersey, by the way.
The game-winning touchdown in double overtime. We credited the entire offensive line and Tyson Williams with this touchdown run.
Yep.
29-26. What a walk-up. You're overpowering an SEC line to win in their stadium with almost 100,000 watching on. Tyson Williams, baby.
And they won 8 games that year. That was a good Tennessee team. Okay. And number 1, the Micah Miracle. With 14 seconds left, Zach Wilson releases this ball at the 13-yard line. Micah Simon races past the defense to get into field goal range to set up the game-time field goal. This truly was a miracle. And BYU wins. He told us yesterday on Twitter, BYU TV Sports, I lose sleep at night because I didn't score in this play.
I'm haunted.
But he still ran a 4.340.
It's all good.
A year later.
It's all good. Does Micah get some of that $2 million?
Zach Dog gets
a little bit. Everyone gets a little share.
Exactly.
Our question of the day, who should BYU schedule to open the 2023 season now that Tennessee's gone? Our elite voice of the day, presented by Sundance Mountain Resort. From Brooklyn 7 Spade says, how about Bo Diddley Tech?
We want him!
Shout out to Bo Schembechler. And
shout out to Bo Diddley.
And Barry Switzer.
Shout out to Bo Diddley.
Who they played? Bo Diddley Tech? So much salt in the 84 championship.
Got our 84 national title.
Today's Rise and Shout Out presented by Mountain America, the official credit union of BYU Athletics.
$2 million.
$2 million. Our thanks to today's guest, David Nixon.
Sorry to Dennis Bitter. No sense.
For Jarom and Spencer. Shout out to Eric Drage as well. Micah, run, man! We'll see you tonight for BYU baseball against Utah. 10 is coming. Go Cougs.
Beat Utah.